Ucapan terima kasih tulus jauh lebih bermakna.
Dukungan dan kerjasama Anda adalah bentuk penghargaan terbaik karena menjunjung tinggi nilai integritas.
Ini hanya tanda terima kasih kecil aja.
Terima kasih, Bu. Namun Ibu tidak perlu memberikan apapun, karena ini memang bagian dari tugas dan tanggung jawab saya.
Ini hanya tanda terima kasih kecil saja.
Wah, terima kasih. Hadiah begini bikin saya makin semangat. Kalau ada apa-apa, langsung ke saya ya.
Kalau mau cepat, ada sedikit.
Maaf, itu tidak boleh.
Tidak semua gratifikasi diberikan secara sukarela. Terkadang, gratifikasi justru terjadi karena adanya permintaan. Jika itu terjadi, jangan diam. Anda berhak menolak dan melaporkannya. Karena keberanianmu melapor adalah langkah penting menjaga integritas bersama. Jika hal ini terjadi, segera laporkan melalui kanal pengaduan yang tersedia agar dapat ditindaklanjuti. Integritas tumbuh dari budaya saling menghargai. Ucapan terima kasih yang tulus lebih bermakna daripada pemberian hadiah. Mari bersama ciptakan layanan publik yang jujur, adil, dan berintegritas demi mewujudkan lembaga administrasi negara yang bersih dan bebas dari korupsi. Terima kasih semuanya, sampai jumpa kembali.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. While we are waiting for the program to begin, allow me to share a few housekeeping announcements. First, please keep your microphone muted during the presentations to prevent background noise. Turn on your camera whenever possible and use the official virtual background provided by the committee. Kindly rename yourself using the format your name _ your institutions. And you also may submit your questions at any time via Slido using the link shared by our team in the chat box. An e-certificate will be provided to participants who attend the entire event from start to finish and complete the attendance and also evaluation form, which will be shared in the chat box near the end of the webinar. We also encourage everyone to maintain a professional, respectful, and also inclusive environment in all our chat discussions. Now, with our house rules set, without further ado, let's begin our webinar.
Every generation faces its own defining moment. Today, public institutions across the world stand at the crossroads of unprecedented change. Rapid digital transformation, emerging technologies, climate challenges, and rising public expectations demand a new generation of public servants, agile, innovative, and adaptive. Competency is no longer about mastering today's skills. It is about preparing leaders who can continuously learn, adapt, and transform. Across ASEAN and beyond, leading public institutions are coming together to exchange ideas, share experiences, and shape the future of competency development. Together, we build stronger institutions. Together, we cultivate adaptive leadership. Together, we shape the future of public service. Welcome to International Webinar, Adaptive Competency Development in Public Service, Policy and Practices.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the National Institute of Public Administrations of the Republic of Indonesia, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's international webinar, Adaptive competency development in public service, policy, and practices. We are delighted to welcome participants joining us through Zoom Workplace, as well as everyone watching us live on the National Institute of Public Administration's YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, on this special occasion, we would like to extend our warmest welcome and highest respects to the Honorable Bapak Dr. Muhammad Taufik DA, Head of the National Institute of Public Administration's NIPA Indonesia. Our distinguished speakers, Professor Oh Jae-yeon, Professor of AI and Data Training Programs, National Human Resources Development Institute, Korea. Ms. Jessica Lee, Deputy Director of the Enterprise Technology Group, Civil Service College, Singapore. Dr. Giri Sabto Aji, Director of Managerial Leadership Learning, NIPA Indonesia. Mr. Kaken Fanasiri, Senior Professional Human Resource Officer, Bureau of Research and Development, Office of the Civil Service Commissions, Thailand. Our expert moderator, Ms. Zahrina Zul Tamimi, and all of our esteemed participants joining us today on Zoom and live on the NIPA YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, to commence our event today, may I kindly invite everyone to sit upright as we listen to the national anthem of the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to officially open our agenda today, we would like to invite the Honorable Bapak Dr. Muhammad Taufik DEA, Head of the National Institute of Public Administration, NIPA Indonesia, to deliver the opening remarks. To Bapak Muhammad Taufik, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Distinguished speakers, Ms. Jessica Lee, Deputy Director, Enterprise Technology Group, CSC Singapore. Mr. Kaken Fanasiri, Human Resources Officer, Senior Provisional Level, OCSC Thailand, and Professor Woo Ji-yoon, Professor AI and Data Training Program from NSI Korea, and Pak Giri Sabto Aji, Director of Leadership Managerial Learning of NIPA Indonesia. And I would like to extend my warmest welcome to our distinguished international guests from Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Indonesia. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the webinar on adaptive competency development in public service, policy, and practices. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our speakers, experts, and participants representing civil service training institutions and public sector organizations across ASEAN. Today's webinar comes to a particularly important moment. ASEAN is entering a new phase of development. As one of the world's fastest growing economic region, ASEAN is expected to play an increasingly significant role in the global economy. At the same time, our region is facing profound transformation driven by artificial intelligence, digital technologies, demographic shift, climate change, and growing geopolitical uncertainties. These changes are redefining not only how government deliver public services, but also competencies required of public servants. The challenge before us is no longer simply to improve training system. It is to build public institutions that continuously learn, adapt, and innovate. This aspiration is closely aligned with ASEAN ongoing efforts to strengthen regional cooperation under the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, particularly in building a resilient, innovative, digital, and people-centered ASEAN. Achieving this ambition requires not only stronger institutions within each country, but also stronger collaboration among our countries. No single institution or nation possesses all the answers to today's complex challenges. Therefore, our greatest strength lies in collective learning, learning from one another's experiences, innovations, successes, and even failure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why forum like today's webinar are also valuable. They enable us to exchange ideas, compare policy experiences, identify emerging practices, and jointly explore new approaches to adaptive competency development for the public sector. I sincerely hope that this webinar will become more than a one-time knowledge sharing event. I hope it will serve as the foundation for a long-term partnership among ASEAN public sector learning institutions through continuous change, to continuous dialogue, collaborative research, exchange of expertise, a joint learning program, and co-creation of innovative competency development models that prepare our civil servant for the future. Ultimately, investing in adaptive competency is not merely about preparing individuals for change. It is about strengthening the capacity of governments to serve citizens more effectively, respond to uncertainty more rapidly, and contribute to a more resilient and prosperous ASEAN. With that, I wish all participants a fruitful discussion and inspiring exchange of ideas. Thank you very much. May our collaboration continue to grow, and may our shared learning contribute to building a stronger, more adaptive, and more resilient ASEAN. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Muhammad Taufik, for your inspiring remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the panel session, we would like to capture this special occasion with an official group photo. We kindly invite Bapak Taufik, all distinguished speakers, and also our moderator and all participants joining us via Zoom to turn on your camera for a few moments. And please ensure that your face is clearly visible on the screen. Our committee will take the screenshots and I will count to 3. Are we ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. One more time, please, by using your hands, making this L.
Learning.
Yes. correct, learning just like Bapak Taufik said. Okay, I will count again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Taufik, for
Thank you.
coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the main sessions of today's webinar. Joining us today are distinguished experts from Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and the Republic of Korea, who will share valuable insights and also best practices on adaptive competency development in the public sector. And to guide us through today's discussions, it is my pleasure to invite our moderator, Ms. Zahrina Zultamimi. Ms. Zahrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rani, for the kind introduction. Honorable Head of National Institute of Public Administration, Dr. Muhammad Taufik DA, distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to today's international webinar on adaptive competency development in public service, policy, and practices. Zahrina Zultamimi is my name, and I am honored to serve as your moderator for this important discussion. We are privileged to have 4 distinguished speakers, as Mbak Reni mentioned before, representing Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and the Republic of Korea, who will share their knowledge, experiences, and best practices on competency development, digital learning, leadership, and AI-enabled public service. And before we begin, I would like to inform you that Professor Woo Ji-yoon from Republic of Korea will be joining us later and will be presenting during his scheduled presentation session. We appreciate your understanding and we look forward to welcoming him at that time. As governments adapt to rapid change, strengthening leadership, organizational learning, and workforce capabilities has never been more important. And today's discussions provides an excellent opportunity for us to learn from one another and explore practical approaches that can be adapted within our respective institutions. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our distinguished speakers and guests for joining us today and warmly welcome all participants from Indonesia and ASEAN Public Service Training Institutions Networks and Korea. I encourage everyone to actively engage throughout today's session by listening, reflecting, and participating during the discussion segment. Without further ado, let us begin our webinar with first presentations that will focus on Thai competency development innovations. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Kakun Fanasiri, Human Resource Officer, Senior Professional Level from the Bureau of Research and Development, Office of the Civil Service Commissions, OCSC, Thailand. Mr. Fanasiri has been actively involved in developing competency frameworks and human resource development initiatives that support the modernizations of Thailand's public service. Today, he will share Thailand's perspective in advancing competency development through innovative approaches. Mr. Fanasiri, I would like to say hi first to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Okay, without further ado, you will have around 25 minutes for your presentations.
Okay.
And I will give you a reminder when you have around 5 minutes remaining. And the screen is yours.
Okay. Selamat pagi. Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Selamat
honorable
pagi.
members of NIPA and distinguished participants. I am Kakun Fanasiri, a Director of Competency Development and Assessment Division, or CDAD. Now, I am working for the Office of the Civil Service Commission in Thailand. Before we proceed, I would like to convey sincere apologies on behalf of our Secretary General. Due to pressing official commitment, he is unable to join us today, but he sends his regards. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to the NEPA on the occasion of your anniversary. It is an absolute privilege to be invited to celebrate this milestone with you all today and to share with you about the competency development in Thai public sector. To begin, this is a breakdown of the topics that I'm going to talk about today. First, I will go through a brief overview of CDAT mission, followed by the development journey of our competency framework. And last but not least, I will talk about the practical application of competency assessments and share some thoughts on key success factors for implementing an effective competency system. Now, let's start with the foundation of our work. Based on Civil Service Act, the consideration of merit, promotions, and the conferment of other benefits to officials must be carried out fairly. This fairness is achieved through careful consideration of work, product, capacity, and behavior. To fulfill this legal mandate, our role is to carry out studies, research, and development regarding the competency system and the performance system. Furthermore, it is our responsibility to develop tools, implement them, and extend the result of competency assessment. Next, the competency system in Thai public sector. What exactly do we mean when we talk about competency? We define competency as behavioral characteristics that result from knowledge, skills, abilities, or other characteristics which enable a person to achieve outstanding results within an organization. After utilizing our former competency model for more than a decade, we recognize the need for modernization and successfully transition to a more agile framework. To achieve this, we conduct a comprehensive review and redesign our new model last year. This journey involved multiple key steps, starting with developing the initial core model and obtaining a subcommittee approval. Following that, we actively engaged the subject matter experts from public and private sector, as well as educational institutions. Subsequently, we conduct government-wide survey and focus group. Sorry for my technical difficulty. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear your voice very clearly.
Okay. Subsequently, we conduct government-wide surveys and focus groups. Finally, this new competency model was officially reviewed and approved by the Civil Service Commission Board, with the Deputy Prime Minister serving as chairman, and it is now fully implemented across all government agencies. The philosophy behind this new framework is based on 3 core pillars: focus, by retraining an optimal number of essential competencies, flexibility to suit each agency context and readiness, and simplicity by reducing competency levels, making it highly practical for human resource management. This framework consists of three main components: knowledge, skills, and competencies. While the CSC sets the core competencies and the level description for knowledge and skills, it is up to the individual agency to determine the specific knowledge and skills required for their context, as well as the functional competency. Now, as you can see, competencies are categorized into three types: core employee competencies and functional competencies, which apply to knowledge worker and operational position, and core managerial competencies, which are specifically applied to our leadership track, covering managerial and executive positions. While the four core competencies are fixed, agencies have the flexibility to select 3 to 5 functional competencies for their knowledge worker and operational position. Now, let's take a look at a real example. The slide on the screen display our first core employee competency, achieving work excellence at level 1. Please note that each competency is structured into 3 proficiency levels, which align directly with an official level. To ensure clear and aligned expectation, each competency in this framework is broken down into 3 key elements: a definition, a level descriptor, and specific behavioral indicators. Informally, we refer to the detailed breakdown you see as our competency dictionary. Now, let us move to the most critical part: how we apply this framework. Even though the competency framework is integrated into all HR functions, and understand that we focus on 3 main purposes for competency assessment: performance management, training and development, and we also handle assessment for the appointment of managerial and executive levels. The tools used for various applications are shown here in this matrix. There are 7 different categories within our tool inventory. And as you can see here, each one serves a specific function, which I will go over some details. As for performance management, our Civil Service Act mandates supervisors to evaluate the performance of the subordinates, and the evaluating results should link to appointment and salary increase. We decide the PM process to be semi-annually for each fiscal year, and the fiscal year starts from October and ends in September of the year after. In each round, the process consists of 5 steps, as shown on the screen. However, today, I will focus on step 4, performance appraisal. The appraisal step normally consists of 2 components. The first one is work result, measured by KPIs, and account for at least 70% of the weight. Meanwhile, work behaviors, which are our competencies, demonstrate how officers perform, accounting for a maximum of 30%. Here we have the competency evaluation interface in DP6. DP6 is the system developed by the OCSC to handle HR data and performance appraisals across government departments. This screen equipped supervisors with essential tools to assess their team members' competencies, such as the expected level for each role and text fields for noting specific behavioral evidence. The key feature here is the 5-point assessment scale, which guides evaluator to score subordinate based on the quality and frequency of their demonstrated behaviors. For training and development purpose, our assessment tools are highly structured. The structured interview in particular rely on clear competency matrices and scoring rubrics. Our next assessment tool is the Situational Judgment Test, or SJT. In this assessment, candidates are presented with a specific workplace scenario along with 4 to 8 possible actions. The test taker must then choose one optimal action or rank 4 corresponding actions. This method ensures a highly objective and evidence-based approach to identifying high potential candidates for selecting into our development program like New Wave Leadership, Middle Management, or onboarding for new executives. We also utilize tools such as 360-degree assessments and self-assessments through our digital platforms. Moving on to appointment purpose. We support this process with 2 specific tools based on SJT, as I mentioned earlier. First one is the core managerial competency assessment for director level positions. A department can optionally use to assist in candidate shortlisting and promotions. It is a competency-based exam and proctored on-site at the OCSC Electronic Examination Center. The second tool is one of the most critical assessment for the Thai civil servants because the result of this assessment is required for all candidates to be appointed as an executive in the government department. The assessment is now paper-based, but we are developing into exam like the first one. And we organize and proctor here at the OCSC. So based on our own experience, I would like to highlight some key success factors for implementing an effective competency system. The first key success factor is the attention and support from supervising officials at all levels. A successful competency system cannot be driven by only HR or even the OCSC alone. It requires full ownership from supervisors at all levels. When leadership actively use the framework to set expectations and provide consistent coaching, it transforms from a paper exercise into a practical standard for daily performance. So we must prepare and train these managers on human behaviors, how to motivate their subordinate, coach, and deal with the conflicts. So OCC runs a number of training programs, particularly for those that have recently been promoted, like New Wave Leadership Program and onboarding manager. The second factor that we believe is highly significant is the development of valid and reliable assessment tools. Since the outcome of our competency assessments are directly linked to high-stakes decisions, such as career appointment and promotion, the tools we use must be scientifically sound and objectively fair. So we take the validation of each assessment tool seriously to ensure its psychometric properties and establish trust. The third factor, which I believe everyone would agree that is a critical component of a successful competency system, is to encourage continuous development. Assessment for the sake of evaluation is never enough. Its true value lies in identifying competency gaps and guiding targeted capacity building. By using evaluation data to directly inform training programs, we shift the focus to continuous growth and empower officers to take charge of their career path. So that concludes my presentation on the Thai competency development. So if anyone has any question or want to share their thoughts, I would be very interested to hear them. And I know that there is a Q&A session after this. Unfortunately, I have another scheduled meeting following my presentation, and I sincerely apologize that I could not be around for that session. So if there are any questions related to my topic after this session, please feel free to send them to me. Okay.
All right. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kakan Panasiri, for sharing those valuable insights, also practical experiences from Thailand. Your presentations has provided an excellent foundation for today's discussions on competency development in the public sector. Just like Mr. Panasiri mentioned, before we continue to our next session, I would like to inform to everyone that due to prior commitment, Mr. Panasiri is unfortunately unable to stay with us until the end of today's webinar. Should you have any questions specifically related to his presentations, we kindly invite you to send them to him via email after the webinar. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Panasiri, and we wish you a wonderful day. And before you leave the meeting, maybe you could leave your email address in the chat box. That maybe make us easier to send you. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions to you.
Sure. Terima kasih banyak. Thank you
ขอบคุณ
everyone for your
ค่ะ
attention. ขอบคุณค
Terima
รับ
kasih.
ครับ
All right. So, our next speaker represents Singapore's experience in leveraging technology to strengthen learning ecosystem. And it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Jessica Lee, Deputy Director of the Enterprise Technology Group at the Civil Service College, or we call it CSC Singapore. Today, she will present from classroom to digital ecosystem, how Learn is transforming public sector learning, highlighting how digital platforms can reshape learning experiences and build future-ready public servants. Miss Lee, I would like to say hi to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes,
Yes, and just like Ms. Fanasiri, Mr. Fanasiri, you also have 25 minutes for the presentations, and I will let you know if there are around 5 minutes remaining minutes, and the screen is yours.
all right. Let me just share the screen very quickly.
Yes,
I think all of you should be able to see it now.
yes, we can see
All
it.
right. Okay. Good morning, everyone, once again. I think it's great to be here with you today, sharing the space with international colleagues, all of us who grapple with the same fundamental question of how to build public services that are ready for the future. So I'm Jessica Lee, from the Civil Service College of Singapore, or CSC for short, because it's quite a mouthful. Yeah, and today I would like to take you on a journey with CSC and share how our digital learning transformation has evolved from a single mobile app back in the 2016 to what has become Singapore's whole of government digital learning ecosystem. Yep. So maybe just this is how we'll be spending our time together. We'll start with a deep dive into what this digital learning ecosystem, or what we call Learn, is really about, as well as the challenge that drove us to build Learn. Before we move into how we designed the platform with the learner at the center, the innovations that we have embedded, and finally, the lessons that we're taking forward. So before we begin the journey though, maybe let me just give you a sense of the landscape that the college actually operates in. So the Singapore Public Service comprises about 153,000 offices spread across 16 ministries, 65 statutory boards, as well as 10 organs of state. So it is a very large, very diverse, multi-agency workforce, and our officers work in very, very different domains. So anything from healthcare to defense, from urban planning to social services, and they have all very different learning needs. So this gives you a sense of the scale and the diversity that is both the opportunity as well as the challenge that the college actually is set to serve the rest of our public service. So the Civil Service College has been at the heart of public sector learning in Singapore for over 5 decades. We began as the Staff Training Institute back in 1971, evolved through several iterations, the Civil Service Institute, the Institute of Policy Development, and then we were finally inaugurated as a statutory board on 1st October 2001. Our mission and vision. So our mission is very straightforward. It is to develop people for first-class public service. And our vision is to be the heart of learning excellence and the development for the Singapore Public Service. So these are the lenses through which we make every product and program decision, including our decision to build Learn, which we'll find out a bit more later. There's a lot of words over here, but essentially these are just what is really underpinning what we do, is really the clear philosophy about learning. So the Singapore Public Service believes that every officer has talent and ability that should be developed to the fullest. So training is not just about being compliant, it's not about ticking boxes, but it is really about building that culture of continuous learning that supports lifelong employability. And at the same time, I think ultimately it's about nurturing a capable, innovative, and forward-looking public service that can serve Singapore well. So this philosophy, the fact that learning is continuous and that it belongs to every officer and that it must connect to real performance, I think is what makes CSC rethink about how we are really thinking about delivering and designing for the future as well. So maybe also a bit of context about how we work as a business model, because of the stat board may not be as familiar to some of the audience here. As a statutory board, CSC is actually funded by a combination of training fees that we get from the public sector agencies, as well as from central planning agencies like Public Service Division in Singapore and the Ministry of Finance. So our product mix spans across cross-cutting domains, programs across cutting domains delivered across multiple modalities as well. So whether it's in-person, whether it's virtual classroom, whether it's asynchronous e-learning or blended learning. And we support this with one physical campus, as well as through our research and think pieces and consultancy services that we offer to the rest of the public sector agencies. And of course, more importantly, for the purpose of today's presentation, is about the digital learning platform, Learn, which is actually the core part of how CSC delivers at scale. Okay, just to give you a sense of the challenge of the scale as well. So we're looking at, for example, 153,000 offices, 91 agencies, and we're facing very, very rapid, relentless technological change. So the fundamental question we started asking ourselves was really, how might we build a learning culture that is continuous, contextual, and connected to real performance needs at scale? This is the design brief that we gave ourselves after much pilots, research on learning and learners, because the traditional model, classroom programs, fixed schedules, centralized delivery, we realized that they cannot reach every single officer in every agency at the moment that they need it. And we needed something different. We needed an ecosystem that can evolve as our learning needs evolve as well. So with this in mind, let's look at how Learn came to be. This is really our timeline of growth, our digital learning growth. So we started back in 2016 with a single mobile application, the Manager's First application, designed it primarily to provide timely support for newly promoted managers who are navigating their first leadership challenges. The app taught us a lot of important things. So we realized that actually officers or learners, they will only engage with digital learning if it was relevant, it was accessible, and available at the moment that they need it. From then, we moved pretty quickly. So in 2017, we established what we called the Digital Learning Services Department, and it was a dedicated team to champion digital learning across the organization. So we ran quite a number of proof of concepts in the 2017 and 2018 to understand how officers actually learn, their preferences, their behaviors, and their pain points when it comes to learning. And then in November 2018, then that's when we launched the beta version of what we now know as Learn. And we adapted it continuously with the user feedback that we have been receiving through the years and through, as we go with each feature launch as well. So in April 2019, that was when we launched the first official version of Learn as Singapore's first whole-of-government digital learning platform, together with Udemy and Harvard Business Publishing as our content providers as well that we partner with. Then from 2020, we started to open up Learn, where we allowed tenancy for agencies. So the agencies were able to come on board to then have their own digital learning spaces within the platform. We also added LinkedIn Learning as a new content provider in 2022. So, and then from there, then we launched what we call the Learn Digital Classroom as well, where it allowed us to then hold synchronous online sessions for classroom programs to support some of these virtual classroom programs. So by 2023, we were already conceptualizing the next evolution, which was a fully integrated digital learning ecosystem. And it's no longer just a platform, it's really an ecosystem. So we successfully did that. In fact, we just launched it last April. So we are still constantly work in progress. And, for my colleagues and me at CSC, we're constantly working on it even at this moment. So, I spoke a lot about this ecosystem, and it's no longer just a platform. What exactly is this ecosystem? So with the ecosystem, what it looks like in practice is that it's a single touch point for everyone who interacts with learning in the public service. Whether you are a learner, whether you are a content creator with an agency, whether you are somebody from the agency who is administering learning, whether you are in charge of a functional or domain, within the whole of public service, whether you are learning designers that sit with CSC, so all of these players here, actually, previously, they had their own separate systems, their own workflows. Basically, everyone was functioning in silos. So I think what Learn then aimed to do and what we did was really to bring all of them into one integrated digital learning ecosystem so that the experience across all of these players here is coherent, is connected, and is scalable. The vision that we had for Learn was really to be the whole of government learning ecosystem that is competency-driven growth in support of public sector transformation. So this vision has 3 dimensions. The first one is that it's meant for public officers so that it is a learning space for whole of government where our learners can develop and enhance their competencies throughout their career. The second dimension is really about agencies. So Learn delivers training to support agencies' business and operational needs without each agency having to maintain or build their own learning management systems. And then finally, for the functional leads, basically functional leaders who cut across horizontal domains in the public service, Learn strengthens the functional competencies and skills across different job families. As the platform itself delivers on this through curated and personalized learnings, multiple functionalities for learning delivery, the use of AI and technology, and greater connected and integrated services. So in terms of the services that Learn actually offer, it is structured around 3 service layers. The first service layer is about the whole of government platform access, the core learning environment available to all public officers. The second one, I think, is really about offering the platform as a service. So it's no longer just about, housing content, but it's allowing agencies, for example, to come on to the platform itself to manage their own content and manage their own learners for themselves. And this is why we created self-serving space for the agencies, the domain leads, the functional leads, to basically be able to develop, design, and deliver their own training within the platform. And this is also where we are shifting our agencies to move from just consuming the content, but to also actively start to contribute to the content itself and managing it and delivering it. And the final layer, I think, is the additional services that we provide as well. So it's great that everything is happening on the platform, and we do have a lot of learning tools that the content creators are able to use. But a lot of this add-on services is also offline as well, when we think about user training, to train the people on how they can use the platform. And then also in terms of, as and when, of course, some of the issues that they may face, technical issues they may face as well when using the platform. So the technical support also has to be extremely strong in this instance. Okay, and then so what's our report card like, right? So we kept talking about being able to scale. So really the value, that we are delivering in order to be able to meet learning at scale. So today, Learn has about 143,000 public officers with an account subscription. So you'll notice that the number is a bit different, because I think there are still some parts of government that we have not been yet able to reach, which is why the number is slightly lower in terms of learners count. But if you notice our agencies number, so it's definitely different from the 91 that you saw earlier. We do have 110 agencies subscribed to Learn. The additional agencies are actually is also because Learn actually serve a couple of our government affiliated organizations who work in tandem with the public service in Singapore. So that's the reason why the numbers may look a bit off to you. So out of this 110 agencies, we have more than 60 of these agencies who actually already have their own tenancy space, the agency learning space. And basically, this is where, like I said, right, they can create and deliver their custom content to their own learners. And we hope to see a continuous take-up on this, as the product evolve as well. Then in terms of the content, so we have approximately 250 programs that were developed to be on the current platform, around 2,000 over digital learning resources, 40% of which are created by the college, and then 60% of which are actually created by our agencies, the tenant agencies. And of course, then on top of all this, then we also have some of these things that we actually get through our third-party providers like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and Harvard. So you will notice that this 60-40 split is actually very significant, because this means that our ecosystem is working. It is genuinely co-created. Agencies are not just coming to consume content, but they are contributing to it as well. Okay, so building the platform was a challenge. Designing for it so that it actually changes how people learn, that was another different challenge altogether. The college was actually very, very clear that we had to move away from the old model of learning. So, previously, a lot of our classroom programs are very program-centric delivery. We run on fixed schedules, we have one-size-fits-all content. Learning happened in sporadic manner, where it's an event. And basically, it's like if something that has happened to you at a specific time, in a specific place, and then it's over. The new model that we are evolving towards is really about performance-led learning. So learning in the flow of work, having content that is personalized, contextualized. Learning is a continuous journey, and it's something that is part of how we work and is not separate from how public officers work. So this shift sounds like it's very simple, but it requires a lot of rethinking, not just about the technology, but also the entire philosophy about how we design for learners. I think most of us are practitioners here, so we'll be quite familiar with this 70-20-10 model for learning, where 70% of the learning takes place through workplace, and then on the job, whether it's on the job, stretch assignments, real work, 20% is social learning, and then 10% happens through formal structured programs. So this is also the framework that has been guiding our learning ecosystem. What has shifted for us is that we are now moving away from that 10% and really trying to support not just the 10%, but really all three across the continuum. So, we are offering digital tools that make learning that is continuous and contextual and not just formal and scheduled. In practice, this actually means 4 things. So first of all, competency anchored pathways. Learning journeys for our learners are mapped to very specific capability outcomes. I think, for instance, in the past years, it has been about data literacy, it's been about digital skills, and it's no longer just off-the-shelf catalogs. I think the second part is really about agency curating content for themselves, because we recognize that when we sit at the center, it's very difficult to meet every agency's needs. And the agencies are actually best placed to curate their own content and then publish it so that it can be tied directly to their own workforce needs through the agency learning spaces. The third part is really about personalized recommendations. So we have tapped on AI-powered engine that surfaces relevant content based on an officer's role, their learning history, and capability gaps. The final one is really about learning in the flow of work. So offering content that is bite-sized, is on-demand resources, that is accessible whenever the officers need them, and not just during very scheduled training windows. So even some of this asynchronous learning that we have been very used to are like at least 3-4 hours. And that's really too much for, I think, some of our officers. They are really looking at things that's under half an hour, in fact. So this is something that we've been trying to move into as well. I also want to spend a moment to maybe just describe a bit more about the agency learning spaces that we offer on Learn, because I think this is one of the most important design decisions that the college actually made. So more than 60 agencies now have their own agency learning spaces within Learn. That means that they can curate and publish their own learning content, design agency-specific learning pathways, and manage their own learner communities, track completion and engagement data, and integrate with the broader CSC content library. The result that we've noticed is that agencies have moved away from being content consumers to content creators, and that shift, from a centralized model to a co-created ecosystem is what made Learn truly scalable. A living ecosystem where agencies can co-create will definitely always outperform something that's off the shelf from a catalog perspective. So maybe now let's take a look at how CSC has embedded AI and technology into everyday public sector learning. Our guiding principle for AI in Learn has been this. Okay, it's going to be a bit confusing, but it's really about making the right learning available to the right officer with the right format for delivery at the right moment that they need it. So there's really all the 4 key factors have to be in there in order for learning to be effective and in order for AI to really complement the learning. So we have done this through 3 capabilities. The first one is a recommendation engine. So it surfaces relevant content based on the officer's role, their learning history. It helps to identify the capability gaps that exist for them or that they may be encountering, as well as suggesting targeted resources that the learner will need or the officer will need. It also learns from the officer's behavior, from learning, what they have consumed, what they like, what they didn't like over time, so that it helps us to eventually reduce the time for the officers that they spend trying to look for what they need, because all this content is now recommended for them and pushed to them. The second part is really about AI-assisted course creation, and this is for our learning designers, because the reality is that we will never be able to catch up with how quickly content is generated. And this is why we have decided to actually use AI to help with the course creation as well. So now CSC and agencies then can build courses a lot faster. We can generate draft content structures, we can draft learning objectives, we reduce the time to publish on the platform, and we enable more agencies to then become content creators with the AI tool. So this is very important for the agencies who want to build their own content, but they don't have very large learning and development teams. And this is something that I think the agencies really took very well too. The third is really, and probably the most distinctive at this moment, because we are still kind of in pilot phase for this as well, is using AI to support role playing. So what we term as Dialogue GPT, our AI role play simulator. So we can maybe now take a look at some of the examples to give you a deeper feel about what these are. So the screens are probably really small, but essentially this is how our Learn dashboard looks like for the learners from the learner's view. So we have actually redesigned the learner interface with the recommendation engine built in as a supporting layer in order to enhance the learner's experience. So each of the officers actually have their own personalized learner dashboard that gives them quick access to their learning tasks, the recommendations, even if they're attending in-person classrooms, programs at the college, actually it shows up on their dashboard as well. And they can access some of the materials post-course as well. So this actually helps the learners to prioritize what to focus on. And through the AI recommendation engine, as well as the improved search experience, so officers are then able to pick out more quickly what their competency gaps are, and then they don't have to go through, the whole catalog that we offer, but they have content that's already recommended for them. And this interface is actually not just a cosmetic upgrade. It is really the front door to our ecosystem. So if that front door is very cluttered or is very confusing, the officers, we realize, won't walk through it. Okay. This is the one that I mentioned that is for our learning designers. So AI doesn't just change how the officers learn, but it also changes how us as learning designers, how we redesign learning as well. So we now use the AI to generate the course outlines. We organize the content into clear logical structures for the learners. We also use it to create interactivities. So we have quizzes, there's flip cards, there's swipe cards. So actually the learning can be made very interactive, and all this can be done very easily through the AI tool that we offer on the platform. The result actually is that our learning designers spend a lot less time on production, but they spend more time on what really matters, which is really understanding what the learner needs are, as well as designing for real performance outcomes. So this is the part that we are still piloting, the Dialogue GPT, right? So it illustrates, I think, something important about how we think about innovation, especially with the use of AI. The context was that we were designing a program on difficult conversations for middle managers. Because the challenge is that it's very difficult for our office, the learners who come through our classroom doors, right, to practice difficult conversations constantly, because it's very time intensive, and often, they can only at most within the setting of a training program practice it once or twice. There's very limited opportunity to scale it. There's only so many role plays that we can run when we have a live facilitator. So the need then to us was very clear for the programs that we ran. We needed to be able to provide scaffolded pre-role play preparation before the live session during the class period, as well as post-program support, so that officers could continue to access a tool that in their moment of need, back at their desk, when they're facing a real situation. The purpose of Dialogue GPT is really to help learners to be able to build confidence through low-stakes practice, to provide scalable on-demand support that doesn't really require a trainer to be present. So some of the lessons we learned from Dialogue GPT as well, here's what we found actually. So officers actually appreciate the choice in the scenarios and the characters that they have, with clear instructions, because it's easy for them to get started. The conversations also stayed on topic and in character with whoever that they have picked up, right? And actually, this is actually harder than it sounds to achieve with AI, because it requires a lot of prompting, a lot for the AI to continuously learn, so that the character can be very consistent throughout the entire practice session. And just-in-time feedback, as well as end-of-practice suggestions, were also genuinely useful for the learners' reflection as well. So this was something that they liked as well. Yeah, but I think what then we realized was the feedback that we got was, but the range of team member characters, while is great, is sufficient. But in terms of the supervisor characters, right, the different personas, the different styles of how the supervisors conduct such a conversation, then those needed to be improved on. And it's precisely because of such user feedback, that's why we were able to continuously to iterate, so that we can ensure that the product will continue to be better. We also just want to highlight that Dialogue GPT is not meant to be a replacement for human facilitation, but it's meant to complement, and so that, as the learners need it, is available on demand, is at scale, and is in their moment of need. Okay, and then the final section, I think, maybe it's really more about, what we have learned from building and scaling Learn and how we can apply some of these lessons. So I would like to share 3 lessons, not as a polished success stories, because I don't really think we have quite succeed yet. But I think these are really things that we genuinely believed in after living and working on the development of Learn. The lesson 1, I think, will really be about starting with the learner in mind. We design for the officer's experience first and not for the convenience of the system. It is very easy, especially for some of us who have been involved in the work of developing systems, right? When we're building a platform, we try to optimize for what is technically elegant, what is administratively efficient. But technology will always enable us to do that, especially with technology, the speed of progression these days. What we must keep in mind is really the design must be driven by real officer needs and real performance outcomes. So every time we got this right, the product got a lot better. And every time we forgot about designing with the learner in mind, and then we have to come back and fix it because we will get a lot of user feedback that this is not working for us. Okay. And then for lesson 2, I think will really be about enabling our agencies, as well as or in your instance, maybe customers or anything to really co-create with us. So instead of merely being that service center, right, serving the agencies, we give them the tools to be content creators, give them the tools to manage their administration, so that actually in our instance we could have built a content library that is centralized, and then we're just done with that, right? So people who need it just access the library. But what we chose was actually a slightly tougher path, because we needed to train people to use it first, and we give agencies the capability to as well to build their own spaces within the platform, so they could build their own pathways, their own content. And we also did a lot of user training with the agencies so that they can learn how to use the platform. So a living ecosystem where agencies can co-create will always be much better than something that they don't have a hand in building, because then all they need will be, oh, this is a product. Either I like it, I take it, I don't like it. I cannot be bothered about it, right? So I think what is testament to that is really the 60% of the content that now our talent agencies have created. So that's really proof of, that the ecosystem is working. And I think the final lesson is really about planning to build from scale from day one. When you are thinking about the architecture, your governance, your content models, they must support your whole of government right from the start. But we don't overplan, because we have to implement in a really agile manner, and be really iterative about it. Use the data and the user feedback that we've collected to continuously improve. Treat the platform like it's a living product. It's not a one-time project that once we're done, we just close shop. Learn today actually looks very different from the Learn that we first built in 2019, and it should be like that. And we suspect that maybe next year down the road, if we have a conversation again, the Learn will look very different as well. Okay, so the public service, I think, across the different countries, actually it's all changing. So the platform must change with it. So I would probably want to leave you maybe with just quick 3 questions, and we can maybe explore them at the panel later as well. But this is more for, I think, reflection as well. So maybe you can think about, in your context, what does it mean actually to move from program delivery to performance-led learning? What has to change maybe in your systems, in the culture, your governance, to make some of these shifts really real? I think the second question is about how do we then design for the learners when your learners are, not just a classroom size. In fact, this webinar, I think there's thousands of us here already, right? So, and all of us, actually, we have learners that are in the hundreds or the thousands, right? Across different agencies, they have very different needs, very different roles, very different starting points as well, because their capabilities are all different. So when we say we want to personalize, how does that actually look like, when we have to do it at scale? And then I think the final question is about AI, right? Because, AI is the talk, and everyone is talking about AI and embedding it. But when we are trying to embed AI, how do we design and deliver learning so that we ensure technology serves the learner and it's not the other way around? So maybe this are also questions that CSC is still working on as well. So I hope that our experience with Learn has given you all some useful reference points as you work through your own context as well. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, and then I look forward to the conversation at the panel later.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. Such a wonderful presentation. You said I really noticed how CSC has partnered with outstanding learning providers such as LinkedIn Learning, Harvard as well, making the learning experience even more comprehensive, and also see how you like beyond collaborating with external learning providers, when your institutions also leverage AI-powered features such as recommendation engine, AI-assisted course creations, and also AI role play to deliver a more personalized and engaging learning experience. Just to remind you, all the audience here, that we have 3 questions coming from Ms. Lee that you can also discuss later on. First is how we move from the program delivery to the performance improvement. Like not only program delivery, but also make sure that it is improving the performance. The second one is how do we design for the learners who has like a different background, so how we meet their expectations. And the last questions is how we make technology serve the learners, not the other way around. Yeah. Okay. Your experience demonstrated how digital transformations can significantly enhance organizational learning and capability, Ms. Lee. So we look forward for the discussion later on. Thank you very much. All right. Coming to the next sessions. We will explore the importance of leadership development in driving innovations and strengthening governance. So after we're talking about the program delivery and improvement with AI, now we're coming to the leadership part. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Giri Sabtoaji, Director of Managerial Leadership Learning at National Institute of Public Administration, NIPA. Dr. Giri will present transformative leadership development for inclusive governance, innovations, and competitiveness. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Giri. Hi, Pak Giri. Good morning.
Good morning, Mbak Zarina.
Thank you. Pak Giri, you have 25 minutes for the presentations, Pak.
Okay.
And I will let you know when the time is about to end. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Zarina. Maybe I'll take only 20 minutes or less than that, yeah.
Okay.
Sessions, yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, distinguished colleagues, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Before I continue, let me introduce myself. My name is Giri Sabtoaji. I'm the Director of Managerial and Leadership Learning Center at National Institute of Public Administration. Before I start, let me share my slides. Yeah. Does anyone see my slides?
I can see your
Okay,
slides
thank you.
very well.
So the topic is developing transformative leadership for inclusive governance, innovation, and competitiveness. Yeah. I think rather than giving or jumps to the practical things, I would like to attract or start from a story. Yeah. Story. Imagine a village at dawn. Yeah. The sun rises, the children walk to school, and the mother waits a health post. Yeah? Or in Indonesia, we call it puskesmas. Yeah? She hopes the system will serve her fairly, quickly, and with dignity. But too often, she faces endless bureaucracy, yeah? Digital barriers, and leaders who cling to old habits. Yeah? This brings to the questions why we are here today. To ask what kind of leadership will shape the future of governance. We know that now we live in this mega trend reshaping the government. Yeah, some speakers address about the AI. Yeah, we live in AI. Yeah, AI is not the future; it's now here. Yeah, and the climate risk, democracy shift, geopolitics, and citizen expectations. Yeah. This megatrends is a driving shift to the governing the continued disruption from VUCA to BANI. We all know about that. Yeah, we live in the disruptions in a very quick change. Yeah, Now we know that we live in a traditional from the change from the traditional context to the future context. Yeah. Now leadership used to mean hierarchy, titles, ranks, rigid structure, but citizens today demand something different. Leading or leaders who connect people, innovations, and institutions. As you can see that there are many institutions or many entities that offer courses, giving certificates, upskill competencies, but they are all that can be seen, yeah. But underneath, yeah, we know that there is a mindset, organizational culture, innovations, and public value. Yeah. So this is something that people don't see, but they are actually bigger than what they appears. Yeah. So without leadership development, reform remains promises. Yeah. With leadership, reforms become life experience. Leadership is the missing link that turns vision into reality. We know that we live now in a very rapid change of technology. The technology develops quite fast, but technology itself does not transform governments, but the leaders do. So that's why, let me tell you a story about a civil servant who live in a remote district, for example, yeah. She faces outdated procedures, limited internet, yeah, and little support. But she sustains there, yeah. What makes she still stay there? That brings me to the core concept of fortress of transformative leadership. Yeah? She stays there because she has integrity. She places public interest above convenience. Yeah? And modeling uncompromising integrity, ethical standards, and consistently placing the public interest above administrative convenience. Yeah? And number two, she has a vision. Yeah? She inspiring her team with a clear reform agenda. Yeah? And the third is of the traits of transformative leaders is curiosity. She's not satisfied what's going on in the current conditions. Yeah, she challenged the status quo, yeah? Testing creative solutions. And the fourth trait is the individual's consideration. She cares. Yeah, she cares about her colleagues' needs. Yeah, about her teams and about the clients. Yeah. So let me continue to the anatomy of transformative public leaders. Yeah. This is one of the most pivotal parts of your deck. It's focus from abstract leadership into concrete behaviors. Yeah. That define how leaders actually operate in practice. Let's explore in depth. Yeah. For example, number one, dimensions of transformative public leaders. Number one is create directions. Yeah. So a leader set a clear vision even in times of ambiguity, and that's the characteristic of his or her leadership. Yeah? And they act like compass, yeah, guiding institutions through uncertainty. Yeah? For example, during crisis, they articulate a path forward rather than waiting for clarity to arrive. Yeah? And then number two is mobilize people. Instead of commanding, they empower teams. Yeah, they inspire civil servants to take ownership of reforms. Yeah, and for example, encouraging collaboration across departments rather than issuing top-down orders. Yeah, and number three is enable innovations. Yeah? Leaders build safe environments for experimentations. Yeah, they are not afraid of new things. Yeah, they allow mistakes as part of learning, fostering creativity. For example, piloting digital services in one region before scaling now nationwide. Yeah. And number four is build collaborations. Yeah. They work across institutional silos. Yeah. Even they break down the barriers. Yeah. collaboration is seen as a strength, not a compromise. And for example, the coordinating health, education, and social services to deliver holistic outcomes. And number 5 is deliver public values. The ultimate measure is citizen outcomes, not bureaucratic outputs. That is always often judged by our civil servants. They just only see the outputs, but they miss or outlook the outcomes. So this is one of the transformative public leaders. They see the outcomes rather than just only administrative outputs. The question is, or they always ask these questions: does this policy improve lives? Not only improve administrative things, but does this policy improve lives? That's key questions. For example, shifting focus from number of reports produced to actual improvement in community of well-being. And why this matters? Because it embodies the navigate ambiguity, empower others, foster innovations, collaborate across boundaries, and deliver tangible public values. A transformative public leaders is not defined by the title, but by the actions. They create directions in uncertainty, mobilize with empowerment, enable innovations by building spaces, foster collaboration across silos, and most importantly, deliver public value. This is the autonomy of leadership that citizens deserve. And we know that in now how future public leaders think. First is strategic thinking. We know that leaders should think about where are we now, where should we go, and then they think systematically, systems thinking. How is everything connected? For example, in stunting conditions, to overcome stunting, they don't just see from the health point of view, for example. It requires coordination across health, education, sanitation, and social protections. And after thinking connected dots, they're also thinking about what is likely to happen next. So they anticipate the future uncertainty. For example, in the public sector example, for example, the AI reshapes public service delivery. How the service in the institutions serve through the AI, because AI can make service faster, accurately, and better, maybe. Next is, for example, it so that NIPA experience, as already maybe people know that NIPA is now doing what is it called, transformations in my context in leadership courses. NIPA has increasingly integrated coaching, action learning, and workplace-based change initiative to strengthen leadership development across the Indonesian public sectors. A long time ago, leadership training, the participants stay in one place, for a quite long time, and then after that they graduated and they go back to their institutions. But nowadays it moved. We have like a system that on and off campus. So letting the participants to connect what they have learned in the course in a training center and practice in the workplace activities. And they reflect. And they reflect and they innovate. So that what they've done is actually improve the quality of the service. And in government innovations, the ecosystem connected leadership, knowledge, collaboration, and digital enablement. Yeah. The leadership, the catalyst for cultural shift. Yeah. The knowledge, evidence-based policy making, and we cannot work alone. We have to collaborate. So across sector network building and using AI and data ecosystem to boost our service. Yeah. That's why the inclusive and equitable governance. Yeah. There are 4 pillars, yeah, to ensure governance system are acceptable and reform benefits are felt equally. Yeah. Number 1 is meaningful participations, yeah. And then data-driven transparency and equitable service design and balance capacity building, yeah. And leadership for inclusive innovation, of course, we start from government innovations, which give the access to all kind of citizens, yeah, accessible to everyone, and then include all of the participants across the institutions, and it will build the citizen trust, and at the end, it will make a public value in a certain and better service. Yeah. And we know that leadership development drives national competitiveness. For example, leadership development, it will make government capability and then government effectiveness and bring to innovations and build public trust and bring national competitiveness. Competitiveness is a continuous reinforcement loop, yeah, fundamentally anchored by the effectiveness and the capability of public leadership. But we have to be careful with the things that cannot be ignored, yeah. Number 1 is the resistance to change. Rigid bureaucratic structures tend to preserve traditional habits that are perceived and administratively safer and hindering innovation. Because if something changes, then everyone have to be adapt to that kind of thing. So this sometimes they emerge the resistance. And number 2 is digital capacity gaps. Yeah, we know in a certain situations, yeah, there is a condition that makes the situations, you know, there is a digital capacity that led them significant disparities in digital infrastructure. For example, internet connectivity and technical literacy across agency and remote agents. Yeah, even in one institution, there is a digital gap as well, yeah, between human resource in that situation, in that institution. Yeah, and then sectoral echo across units. Yeah, cross-agency coordinator remain constrained by rigid jurisdictional boundaries and unit-level self-interest. So that's why these things you have to break down by leaders, yeah. And to mention limited development budgets, yeah. This is quite common, but it could not be a barriers, yeah, to make a transformation itself, yeah. So the innovation in competency development new models, yeah. In National Institute of Public Administration, we blended the learning from training into workplace, yeah, into a corporate university or corporate model, yeah. This is the blended e-learning, distance learning, and classroom formats integrated into a single system, helping agencies meet the mandatory 20 learning hour requirement at scales, yeah. And number 2 is merit-based talent mobility, yeah. The undang-undang or the law, yeah, number 2023 links competency development directly to cross-agency talent mobility. Yeah? So leadership group is tied structurally to career progressions, not in one region or not in one institution, but they can move nationwide. Yeah? And then digital transformation as a leadership multiplier. Yeah? Indonesia raised from rank 77 into 2022 to rank 64 of 193 countries, yeah, in the 2024 in the United Nations E-Government Development Index, entering the very high tier, evidence that leadership-driven digital investment drive measurable government gains. Yeah? And in NIPA now, we develop AI-assisted adaptive learning pathways, yeah, an emerging frontier for personalizing leadership development at scales. include in this webinar's own sessions on building an agile AI government, how to build AI in terms of building competency for government competitiveness. For the next evolution of leadership development, training or model competency based, we enable AI, enable learning. We have to adapt curriculum to the new or the current condition, or even anticipating the future and the personalized learning. And then learning analytic and global collaborations, not only nations, but regions, even international wide. And we build continuous learning culture. Let me return to the mother in the village at the beginning of my presentations. Imagine she walks into a health post where the system is digital, transparent and inclusive. Imagine her child receiving education shaped by the leaders who care about equity. Imagine her community thriving because leaders dare to innovate. This is the vision of transformative leadership. It is not about power. It is about service. It is not about hierarchy. It is about humanity. Leadership development is the bridge that enables government to transform, innovate, create lasting public value. Colleagues, let us commit to nurturing leaders who are ethical, visionary, inclusive, and innovative. Leaders who ensure governance is not only efficient, but also just and fair. Together, we can build government that are bigger in visions, smarter in executions, and better in serving humanity. I think that's all for that today. Thank you very much. I would like to have some questions. If the questions dedicated to me, and I'll be glad to answer that. Thank you. I'll give back the time to moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Giri. I got a good quote from you, Pak Giri. So technology alone does not transform government, but leadership does. Your perspective on the anatomy of public leaders have also highlighted the critical role of leadership in building resilient and innovative public institutions. But with the critical questions, does this policy improve life? So in the end, you say leadership development is actually the bridge that enables government transformations. Thank you very much, Pak Giri, for your insightful stories and presentations. I'm sure that you will have a lot of questions. Our committee here has been monitoring all the questions in the Slido. All right. So before coming to the final presentation, let me just welcome our fourth speaker, Professor Woo Ji-yoon. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So with Professor Yoon, we will explore how artificial intelligence is transforming human resource development and public sector capability building. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Woo Ji-yoon, Professor of AI and Data Training Programs at the National Human Resources Development Institute of Republic of Korea. Drawing on his expertise, Professor Yoon will present Building an Agile AI Government, HRD strategies and training systems for adaptive public service. We look forward to learning from Korea's experience in preparing public institutions for the AI era. Professor Yoon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm honored to share knowledge and experience, everyone. And I hope everyone could get insight from my presentation. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Yes.
So let me check. So
Yes, we can see it clearly and your voice also clearly. You're good to
Okay,
go.
so everyone could see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, so today I bring to a little bit complicated issue in facing new era of AI, but it's going to be one of the huge issue in the building what kind of AI government we should need. So and strategically how we could build HLD and strategy for adapting public services. Anyways, today I would like to discuss how the government can move beyond simply just adopting artificial intelligence and begin building a genuinely adaptive public service. So the central argument of this presentation is very straightforward. So AI transformation in government is not mainly about just introducing more tools and more chatbot or more automations. It is about developing institutional capacity to learn faster, experiment responsibly, and continuously improve the public policies and services. So in this transformation, I believe that the human resource development is not just supporting activities. It is the mechanism through which new technology becomes, in new government capability. So therefore, I will focus on three, you see the connected element. The first is a learning capacity of the government, and the second is the accountability required for public sector AI. And lastly, the HLD and the training system need to make this capability and sustainable. So I'm going to address the 5 things. The first, I will explain why AI adoption alone does not produce government transformation. And the second, and I will define agile AI government as a learning-oriented operating system for public administration. The third, I will discuss the governance foundation required to make this system trustworthy, particularly sovereign AI and sovereign data, also and risk-based accountability. The first, maybe everyone might be interested in this topic. I will explain how the roles and capabilities of civil servants must change. And finally, I will propose a role-based training system that connected formal learning, safe experimentation, workplace projects, and institutional change. So overall, movement is from the technology to the governance, to the capability, and finally to institutionalization. So I believe that AI adoption is not just government transformation. And governments around the world rapidly adopt generative AI. Every public service use GPT or Gemini kind of things. So because why? Because civil servants are using those kind of AI to summarize documents or research information or prepare a report. So I believe that this application AI can improve productivity. However, the faster document production, does not automatically create a more capable government. In the real world, the most difficult public problem is, kind of such as population aging, climate risk, social public health, or disease management cannot be solved just adopting new AI or the automation alone. So this problem involves uncertainty, competing values, fragmented data on multiple institutions, and changing citizen needs. So what government need is not only greater processing speed, but they need a greater learning capacity, So on the adaptive government must be able to detect emerging signals, define the right policy problem, and compare alternative hypotheses, and conduct a control experiment and learn from the implementation. So therefore, the real measure of AI capability is not how AI systems government actually has introduced, but it is how effectively the government can alone improve through their response use. So let me just briefly introduce what is agile AI government. So I define agile AI government as a government operating the model that use sovereign AI and sovereign data to define the policy problem and test hypotheses and validate the results and continuously improve policies and public services. So, there's a three actual aspect of this defined. So the first is agile AI government is an operating model. It's not just individual technology project. So it changes how problems are identified, how policy alternatives are developed, how implementation monitors, and how results are resolved. The second, I believe that AI is just support public, AI is just support public judgment rather than replace it. So AI can expand the range of the evidence, identify patterns, and compare alternatives and reduce the time required for analysis. And everyone might wonder what is agility. So I believe that it does not mean acting quickly without control. So it means shortening the cycle between evidence, experimentation, and evaluation and correction, while maintaining legal authority and public accountability and human oversight. So theoretically, we need to distinguish among those things. So data government, AI government, and agile government is very simple. So in the data government, focus on the platform. And question is simple: what should be digitized? And in AI government, produce prediction, automations, classification, human argument, this kind of thing. So in AI government, in this AI government, the central question is where can AI be applied? However, in agile AI government moves one step further. So a central concern is a learning process. So question is, which policy hypothesis should be retested, and what evidence should we collect, and under what conditions we should modify scale the intervention. So I know that digital platforms and AI models remain essential. However, they become part of the broad operating system built around experimentation, feedback, accountability, and continuous improvement. Okay, so that's the key of the concept of agile, AI government. So the first is as you see that the learning loop. So government discovers problem, formulates a hypothesis, develops a prototype, and tests it in a central controlled settings. So the government could evaluate the result, improve the design, and the scales of what has been validated. The second is accountability loop. As you see that a government defined who approved the AI use, what data model are used, and what results were produced, who validate the output, and what risks were identified, and under what condition system may be changed, and suspended, and terminated. So actually, these two loops must operate together. So actually, as you see that learning and accountability is a key factor in agile AI in government. So, and you might heard before sovereign AI and sovereign data. Anyhow, agile AI government requires a foundation, a model that government can control. So this is the purpose of sovereign AI and sovereign data. So I believe that sovereign AI does not mean that government must develop every model and chip and class service and application myself, but it means that government retain the authority to select, evaluate, and modify, suspend, replace, and exit from the AI system. Also, as government must understand in sovereign data, government must understand where data are processed and how model is updated and what logs available and whether alternative provider or system can be used. So it is very important to secure that government could have a control on AI model and data. That is the role of the sovereign AI and data in agile AI government. So the point is that we need AI because the AI, as I mentioned, the AI is just not a tool or chatbot. However, the AI should, had to be embedded across the full policy cycle from the agenda set time to the feedback. So every step, AI has a role, and so they could help to find out what problem we should and what issues we address, and in policy designs, what kind of the alternatives most effective to implement it. So in implementation, so we could AI actually help us to improve our manual checklists or case summarize kind of operator monitoring. Also through the evaluation stage, so we could analyze outcomes and effect or citizens' experience. So actually that provide us meaningful feedback. So we could revise the rules and model services. So I believe that actually agile governance is to take control of the risk. So in the government side, we could divide into a task or a policy into the three level of the risk. There's a low risk, medium risk, and a high risk. So as you see that in the low risk, we generally require clear, usage rules and secure environment records and human review. So in the low risk, we could rely on external AI, which is developed by foreign companies. So, but in the medium risk and high risk, and how government should have the high level of control. So, which means in those fields, sovereign AI and the data should be embedded in those area. So, as you see that in the agile AI government, the question is not just how much AI or how many AI we have, but the point is that can we control the AI and data, and we could stop the using of AI in the field of those kind of the risk field. So anyhow, it's a basic concept in agile AI. Public AI trust is very important. So public sovereignty should consider the hallucination of the AI and the bias and privacy leakage, and especially I believe that you might have heard before the prompt injection. So prompt injection kind of related to cybersecurity. So anyhow, the government needs limit system separately and also secure credential and we need to take control the logging on the system, and also there's a misuse. Anyhow, as an government, we should take control of those kind of the issues on using AI. Without take control of those issues, public trust cannot be created by us, our citizens. So, I think I could skip this one. This might be the more important one. So I know it's AI become more capable. So every day we use the high technology AI system, but as adopting new technology, I believe that the role of civil servant does not disappear. I think it becomes more demanding and more precise. So I defined the four roles in the Agile AI government. So the first one is that the civil servants become problem definers. So they should determine which public problem should be addressed, whose needs are important, and what should or should not be automated. Also, the second role is that they could be AI verifier, so they evaluate whether outputs are factually correct, legally valid, and contextually appropriate, and secure and fair. The third role is they should be responsible decision makers. So they must be able to reject, modify, overwrite, or suspend AI-supported recommendation and explain the final decision to the citizens. The last one is I believe that public servants also become public value coordinator who connect policy, law, and data technology, and ethics, secure, and frontline experience. So I believe that therefore the future civil servant is not just simply AI user. They are becoming architects of the responsible public judgment. So according to the change of their roles, so that those kind of role requires a fundamental shift in public sector HRD. So training must move from the just like learning how to use AI tool to the public policy or public problem solving. So starting point should not be how do I use this function? No, the question will be what public problem are we trying to solve? That's the first key question. The second training program must move from the just learning how to ask a question to the AI to the what kind of model or data we need to control. So civil servants need to understand which model may be used, what data may be entered, and how outputs should be verified, and when the system should be stopped or changed. And the third is that training must be moving from the data analysis to the sovereign data stewardship. So officials must know how to manage data quality, classification, access, reuse, retention, and responsibility. Also, we need to develop the training program. Our public service could learn from the workplace experimentations. So, I mean, the learning should be connected, real ministry problems and the prototypes and the field feedback and the service improvement, the feedback. So, and the last one is, that happens even in Korea, even my institution. It's like a PASSLIT program is like a one-size-fits-all training. but it should be replaced by role-based and risk-based capability development. So I'm almost done. So I define that a role-based curriculum for trained for responsibility. So all officials need to need a common foundation in responsible use, the secure data protection and verification, and frontline staff needs learn how to judge and of the case from the AI, and citizens communication and exception handling, and also the ability to capture the operational feedback, and data and AI operation need the deeper, capability in data governance and model evaluation, access control, log security, and system monitoring. I think that those level is very important in agile AI government. Mid-manager should know what project is appropriate to solve problem, and they should know classify risk, and the coordinate teams, and manage and portfolios, and also approve the experiment. Lastly, a senior leader need to establish the institutional direction, also define acceptable risk, and managing sovereign AI and data dependency without allocating appropriate resources. And they need to help decide when the validated project should be scaled. So the objective is not just like to make every civil servant just like an AI engineer, but it is to secure that each role can exercise its responsibility competently. So in our institution, we design a training program with creating a sandbox kind of things. As you see that we believe that sandbox and with project-based learning is very important. So as you see that our public sector AI sandbox is not merely technical practical environment. It combines approval models, authorized data, and access control and security safeguards, and logs, evaluation and tools, and approval procedures. So we believe that public officers in this sandbox could learn a comprehensive, the whole entire process of AI using in sandbox with practicing potential risk. So also participants could work on the real ministry problem rather than just like abstract exercise. So I know it's very hard to create those kind of the training environment, but we believe that this kind of environment could provide public officers to face the real problem of AI, especially generative AI. So anyhow, it's a very simple to make successful operation model. The institutionalization is very important. So we need authority, responsibility, and the standardized definition. The specialization learning and sustainability is important. So we're going to redesign the entire of the institutionalization of the government. So the last one. This is the last one. So let me conclude by returning the central question. So at the beginning of I mentioned that before we having generative AI, we usually ask like where can government insert AI, but it is I think no longer efficiency. So the more strategic question is that how can government use AI alone faster, experiment responsibly, and create better public value. So we believe that learning, accountability, HLD is essential and important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Yun, for your
Yes.
inspiring presentations. So simply using AI does not guarantee the better government outcomes. So AI must be embedded in all full policy cycles from agenda to feedback. But still, civil servants remain at the center of the AI enabled. So yeah, government by the role of civil servants will be about defining problems, validating AI outputs, making accountable decisions, and also ensuring that technology creates public value. So thank you very much, Prof. Yun. Your insight into AI-enabled workforce development have offered valuable perspective on preparing governments for the future of public service. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the questions and answer sessions. Participants are invited to submit your questions through Slido. And actually, our committee has been monitoring the questions throughout the webinar, and will display the selected questions on the screen. We will do our best to address as many questions as time permits. And let's begin with our first questions. Once again, you are invited to submit your questions through Slido. Unfortunately, we only accommodate questions from Slido. Let me just check on the first question to Ms. Lee. Okay. What are the biggest challenges in implementing the Learn platform? And if Indonesia wants to adapt it, what are the initial steps and preparations? Okay.
That's a great question because we have had so many challenges. I don't know where to start, but I think what was most interesting for us was that actually, surprisingly, the main challenge that we faced was actually not the technical ones. In fact, I think what was really difficult for us was the human factors and the organizational changes involved. Because if you're thinking about it, right, we are trying to get 110 agencies with different mandates, different cultures, different existing systems to try to align around a single shared platform. Naturally, there's a lot of resistance because some of the agencies have invested heavily in their own systems as well. So you know what's in it for them to want to make that shift. For some of the smaller agencies, of course, then they were all ready to go because they didn't have the budget to really invest in some of these learning management systems and all. So having Learn was a great option for them to be able to quickly adopt. I think what then the challenge that we faced was really about the change management process, and we've learned the hard way that actually was just as important as designing a great system for I think the users lah. I guess we also underestimated how long it would take to shift mindsets as well. Because like I think I saw some of the questions as well. I think all of us are of the mindset that we attend a program, we complete the program, then we have learned the skills, we've acquired whatever is necessary and designed for us. So in order to shift, I think like over 100,000 over officers, right? And their mindsets about learning is no longer just episodic, it's no longer just an event, but you have to look at learning from a continuous journey perspective. You're continuously picking up new skills, you're continuously reskilling yourself. And that shift we realize can take more than days and months, and it could even be years. So I would say that that's probably one of the greater challenge, that shift in the mindsets bit. When it comes to some of the technical, I think probably challenge. Interestingly, it's also not about building the system as well. That was actually the least of our issue. I think what then we found was that we had an issue with data. So I think for all of you out there who are considering new system or platform kind of development, right? Actually, data is really the anchor to building great platforms, because once your data is not clean, once your data is not there, actually we have very little to build from. If you want, we spoke a lot about AI analytics and things like that. If you really want to have a really robust, analytics, you want to have a great search engine, great recommendation engine, then the data is really what's most critical. So I think that's probably something for consideration. I think for the context for Indonesia, I think interestingly, I think perhaps maybe my suggestion would also be then maybe start with a clear problem statement in mind. It's not so much about, you guys need a platform, but really what are the capability gaps that you're trying to address? Who are you trying to close the gap for? And and then from there, then you can think about then the platform then should then be then for a defined need that you have already identified rather than the starting point. So I think that's probably quite important. Yeah, maybe I'll leave
Yeah.
it at that. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Lee. I really like the way you say that we should start with the learner, just like you mentioned before in your presentations, right? And also equipped with the clear problem statement. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see for the next questions. All right, I think this is for Prof. Yoon. So what the institutional, legal, I see you're starting to laughing, and cultural changes are necessary for governments to successfully implement agile AI government?
Yes, maybe it's got explanation of
Yes.
their part. So that's where it's magnification. So I say yes, absolutely, yes. So anyhow, I think the institutionalization is very important because authority and the responsibility must be formalized. So government must define who approves AI use and who owns the risk and who validates performance and who has the authority to start the system. Also, we need to consider the common standards. So this maybe it includes a model registry or documentation requirement or logs, national oversight rules and security control, and at least minimum evaluation and criteria of the AI. And also, lastly, I believe that sustainability is very important. So in agile AI, so any system or AI model or kind of things should be aligned with a budget, procurement, audit, and performance management, and organizational role and promotion system and HRD. So just like adopting AI is not just adopting AI is not just innovation, but it's in agile AI. It should make responsible experiment with authority and responsibility and common standard.
Great. So yeah, government, we must also handling the risk and also having like the common standard of it. And don't forget the sustainability itself. Also the budget. Yeah, I think we face the same, problem. And
every country faces those kind of
yes, also just like Pak Giri mentioned before. Yeah, it's a common problem. All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Yoon. Let me just check another questions. Still for you, Prof. Yoon. So even AI agent makes wrong recommendations that affects citizens who should be accountable, and what human oversight mechanisms are essential? Oh, that's a tough question.
So as I mentioned before, in the agile government, trustworthy is the key, the factor into the citizens. So usually AI could provide output, result, recommendation, but they might be wrong, and the citizen ask us, who actually review that result. So anyhow, without any reason, public solving to take responsibility, accountability. So, as you mentioned, what human oversight mechanisms are essential? Maybe there's 3 steps. So the first step is we actually input right data. Right. So some of the data might be misused, or some of the data might be, illegally used, or they contain privacy data. So second, we use a right AI model. So there's 1,000 kind of AI model. So results usually heavily rely on what kind of AI model is used. So the point is that if public servant did not have a proper knowledge for the AI model, they are more likely use inappropriate AI. So which means they could lead a wrong answer. Right. So public servants not only just like oversee the result, but also they should monitor the entire process of the AI.
Right. Okay. So I've highlighted 2 things. That first is we need to input right data, because AI is eating all the data, and we should start with the right one. And then also choosing like the right AI model. Great. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Yoon. I think we still have a lot of time to answer next questions. Let me just check. All right. It's a secret identity here. To Dr. Giri Saptoaji. So how can civil servants drive transformations amid regulatory and organizational silos while shifting the focus from administrative compliance to public outcomes? The floor is yours, Pak Giri.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Sarin. It's a good question, yeah. One of the characteristics of a good question is hard to answer, yeah. Yeah, I mean it goes back to my basic statement, yeah, that whatever the regulations, whatever the policy, yeah, it goes back to ourselves, yeah, to humans, yeah, to leaders, yeah. If we think that the regulation is not suitable for the current conditions, why? What is it? What's the boundaries to change it? Yeah, because regulation is made, and it can be changed. Yeah, maybe the question is, if we cannot change the regulation, that's the questions. Yeah, ourselves. But there must be someone who can change that regulations. Yeah? So for those who cannot change the regulations at the moment, yeah, for example, yeah, so that's another characteristics of transformations. What is it? Civil servants, if I may mention, yeah, that is the adaptations, yeah, adaptations to the current situations, which in fact the regulation doesn't allow doing that, yeah. But how can we the in the level of roots, yeah, the grassroots, yeah, we change the the surface, yeah, that still accommodate the conditions, but still if we cannot say comply, yeah, but as long as it doesn't break the rules, yeah? And that's one characteristic of the adaptive and transformative civil servants. I think that's one my answer. Yeah? Even though it's not very satisfactory, maybe, yeah. But the thing is, if regulation is made, there is possibility to be changed. Yeah?
Okay, right. So let's look back at the regulation that can be also changed into something that relevant to current situations. and current need of the society. All right, thank you, Pak Giri. Let me also check on the next question. Okay, so this is for you, Miss Lee. So how does CSC measure the impact of learning through Learn, particularly its effect on individual workplace performance after training? Well, talking about impact, I think we also in Learn really needs to know this. So looking forward to your answer.
Yes. I guess for measuring the impact of learning, there are many facets to impact depending on how we are looking at it. I guess from the more, I suppose the research out there will tell you that a lot about impact is really about the relevance of the learning, and not just the relevance, but then subsequently, how is it applied back in the workplace? So we spoke about the 70-20-10 just now. A lot of times, I think when our learners come through our traditional programs, one of the things they mentioned is that the impact of learning is significantly reduced because they are attending a classroom program. So they learn all the great, tools, they learn all the great theories in the classroom. But once they go back to the workplace, because the context is different and they no longer have a chance to apply exactly how they have learned it in the classroom, so very often then the impact becomes a lot more watered down. So I think then with Learn, of course, having said all that, right, it doesn't mean that therefore the classroom learning is completely not impactful. And actually, as a matter of fact, we still do measure the impact of classroom learning. So like after every program, after every digital learning, actually the learners are supposed to then also, of course, we invite the learner to give evaluation. But I think what CSC has tried to do a bit more is to enter really that 20% and 70% space. So I think, which was why I mentioned a bit about the performance lab. So beyond actually the Learn as the ecosystem itself, or rather as part of this ecosystem, actually we're looking at also how we can expand some of our consultancy or advisory services to the agencies. So we work with them, the agency, to really diagnose actually and to figure out what exactly is the agency's overall learning and development plan. What is it that, for example, for a particular fiscal year, what they are planning out, what are the learning goals for the organization, what are the key priorities, and then we work with them then to design also then actually then in view of all these learning priorities, and then of course the budget that they have, right? Then what is it that then they want to work on, and then what is it that then CSC can partner them to develop, and then subsequently to roll out across the year or sometimes across a few years, depending on how big the learning outcomes are. Then I think then along with that, then also then the conversations with the partnering agency have to happen. Then we have to talk about what would it show to us that we've succeeded? What is the impact? And then we can measure from there. So sometimes it could be, purely self-reported by the learners when the learners then share that yes, they have learned, they have applied. So it's a self-reported evaluation. Sometimes it's actually based on their managers or their supervisors, where the supervisors make an assessment of a pre and post evaluation. And then of course, and then at the highest level, sometimes we speak to their CEOs or some of the top leaders in the organization, their directors and all, to figure out whether they have, to understand whether they feel that there's a shift or, whether there are still areas of gaps that needs to be addressed. But of course, having said that, then that is a very resource-intensive way to measure impact because we have a lot of agencies, and typically we only do it with, I think, some of the more key agencies in that sense, the bigger size or the one that has direct impact on frontline work. I think then from a platform perspective, from measuring impact, what we have been trying to leverage on is to use technology to help us. So beyond the learners reporting themselves whether they found a piece of learning useful, I think we also then look at, we've been dabbling a bit with Google Analytics because that's embedded as part of our platform as well. So we're trying to see whether learners, for example, stay longer or have more activity minutes on a particular resource. And then subsequently after the resource, do they then go on to other resources that are related, or do they just stop there? Is there a lot of people who drop out from a particular resource, for example? So then that in a way is also some indicators or like some proxy for us to, have a sense of what the impact is, whether people found it useful, applicable, relevant. So that's probably what I would say in a nutshell. Yeah.
Right, thank you. So you mentioned that the relevance of the learning itself, and then the key priorities of the government itself, and then see it, how the budget can cover it all, and also use of technology, just like you mentioned, the Google Analytics, also the AI that embedded to the Learn itself. I think it's very useful to measure the impact, right? I think we still need more time. All right. So let us check on the next questions. All right. It's you again, Miss Lee. So how do you sustain officers' motivations and consistency in long-term asynchronous and self-directed learning? Wow, it's another challenge in us.
I have to tell you,
as
and I have
well.
to be very honest about it, it's extremely tough because even till now, I think the college back in Singapore also, we've been talking at length about, should we look at gamification, for example, right? Have
Okay.
leaderboards and stuff like that. But the truth is, I think some of our departments, actually some of the one of the teams in the college, right, actually has done extensive research. And unfortunately, gamification doesn't really quite work for learning. I think when you gamify an experience where people are really motivated and interested in whether it's maybe purchasing something online, for instance, right? Then that's great because the learners or rather the people or the users already start with the intent that they want to do something in mind. But for learning, it's typically because I think most of us will not be self-motivated learners where we feel like we wake up every morning and saying, yeah, I've got to learn something new today. So unfortunately, not quite crack the code yet. I think what we do, the shift that I think we're trying to make, what we realize is that we are trying to shift away from focusing on the learners because we realize that at the individual level, actually it's very difficult to push each individual because what motivates them to learn can be very different. But what we realize that, and that's the good part about being in part of the public service, right, across for all of us as well, right? What we have as levers are actually the organizations, the agencies as well. So we work through the agencies. And that is when, if the agencies are able to specify, for example, these are the key priorities for us, and these are the things that I want my officers to be trained in because they are directly, for example, appraised on it, or their performance is dependent on some of these skills for learning as well. So I think then from there, it's a lot easier to convince the officers that, they need to acquire learning. It's a lot easier to motivate them because, there's performance appraisal at stake. I mean, unfortunately, there's a carrot and stick there, but and I think a lot of times also, I think it's also about some of the greater government efforts as well. So in fact, I know as we speak, I think on our end, we have just actually finished our month-long public service learning festival as well. So we do have some of this whole of government initiatives to encourage people to take that time to learn. And of course, I think when the public service learning festival first started, it was very low key, very little publicity about it. But it has evolved to a way whereby actually now we're seeing real interest and real participation, and people come in for the learning journeys, come in for the gamification components where they win prizes and stuff like that. So I think that's probably, I mean, I don't have a great answer for this, but really I think it's through a mix and match of, I think, different interventions to help to sustain the motivation.
All right. Yeah, so external motivations is really needed. It doesn't really need about the gamifications or bite size, but still, yeah, external motivations. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Lee. I think we have direct questions from the audience. Let me just check. Yeah. You may raise your hand. I know some of you already wait for so long to raise your hand. Okay, let me just check on Mr. Seno Hartono or yeah. And Bu Ervi. Okay, we have two direct questions from the audience. Okay. Maybe we can cover for two persons in the sessions, and after that we will open for the next question and answer for direct questions. Okay, Bu Ervi first. Hello, Bu Ervi. Can I hear your voice?
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I can hear your voice.
Speakers. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for having shared the presentations. It was really insightful and beneficial for us. Actually, I got two questions, but because the one from Thailand has left, so perhaps only to Miss Jessica Lee. May I?
Okay.
Yeah, my question is about the how we cater or accommodate individual needs of uh, civil service in learning, because as you know that the number of civil servants in Indonesia is much more than in Singapore. Singapore, you mentioned only about 150 something. Uh, in Indonesia, we have 6.7 millions, and it's quite big. And so, can you suggest to us, or do you have any suggestions for us how to cater or accommodate individual needs of learning, particularly in different social and cultural contexts? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for the question. I think it's a great question, and I suppose maybe that's why my sharing about the Learn platform as well could potentially provide some ideas, I suppose. Because I think the reality, and even in Singapore, we face the same challenge as well. So I'm sure the challenge is a lot more amplified in your context. Because even with just 153 over 1,000 of public officers, we do actually recognize that there's great issues in trying to go down to each individual learning needs, which is why I think one of the anchor point always have to start from the competency frameworks as well that probably every organization will have. And I think at the greater government level, there will be competency frameworks for your civil servants. So I think that will always be the anchor. And from there, I think, of course, then also taking into consideration what are some of the, I suppose, the key areas for maybe a particular period, maybe it's a year, maybe it's a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan kind of thing, right? So that in the first instance, we can zoom in very, very specifically on the focus areas for training. And then from there, then based on whoever that is in your learner pool, the ones that require the training. So it could be down to role-based. It could be because of their roles, the kind of work that they do. It could be based on designation, like for example, if it's first-time managers, if it's for like senior leadership. So then depending on the roles, then we can puzzle and design the different types of learning. And I think while it's very difficult to have physical training because it is very resource and time intensive for both the organizers and the learners, but I think there is still value in that face-to-face. It's just that I think from from CSC's point of view, I think how we've been thinking about it is that we try to do less of the theory in the physical setting, because the physical setting is best for conversations, it's best for robust debates. We're talking about issues, we're ideating together. So maybe then also thinking about how we are designing different kinds of formats for different kinds of learning objectives and outcomes. And the theory part of things, leave it to the technology to help you. So maybe, you could have a learning management system. You could maybe eventually have develop a platform like Learn itself as well, right? So leave the technology and leave, all this to scale that theory base of the learning. But then I think then where the conversations matter the most, right? You can afford to have then shorter sessions where you can organize like webinars like this. You can organize on-site, in one of the cities, and then to organize some of this conversations-based learning, I would say. Then I think then in terms of the cultural part of things, unfortunately, each agency, and we discover in Singapore as well, each agency, for example, a uniform group and their needs and their culture, right, will be the military type, right? And it's very different from, for example, a social sector or like education. And sometimes what we realize is that there is value to bring the different groups together, especially when we are trying to get the different agencies to work better with each other. But other times, I think when we're trying to deep dive into very specialized skills that maybe educators only will need, then I think it is well spent the time, right, for us to really then work with the people who are who are really in the business, who really understands what are the needs and what are the gaps that we're trying to address, and then to design the learning interventions. I would also say that probably a lot of things are actually learning on the job now rather than offline or like traditional structured learning. So I think one of the things that maybe you all can think about experimenting with will be really how that on the job learning can take place, and that sharing and from the learning on the job itself, and that can be something that is initiated by each of the agencies rather than from a centralized unit lah. That's, I think, probably maybe my view on that. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much,
Thank
Miss
you.
Jessica Lee.
Thank you very much, Miss Lee, and thank you very much, Bu Ervi, for your questions. Yeah, Okay, let me just check on Pak Seno. Because he wrote questions before and we'd like him to like ask the questions directly. Maybe like he can also elaborate more. If or okay. So maybe we can also start with Miss Win Sandar. Mrs. Win Sandar. Yeah, hi. Good morning, Mrs. Win Sandar. Can you hear my voice? Mrs. Win? Mrs. Win Sandar. Hi, good morning. Yeah, hi. Good morning, Mrs. Win Sandar. Would you like to ask other questions?
Yes, can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Are you here?
I can hear your voice.
So I would like to ask one more question. Yes. Can I ask one more question? Yes, please. What are the most significant constraints? For example, what are the most I would like to ask one more question. What are the most significant constraints? For example, budget, manpower, technology.
Mm-hmm. All right, I hear you. What are the most significant constraints from the budget?
Rendering affected performance.
Okay. Let me just reconfirm your question. So you are asking about what are the most significant constraints? Is it about the budget? Is it about the manpower or else? Is that right, Miss Win? Who do you want to ask these questions to? For Professor Yoon or Miss Lee or Dr. Giri?
Or else. Is that right? Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So we got your questions, Miss Win. We will try to invite the speakers to answer this question. Maybe we can start with Professor Yoon.
So her question, I'm just trying to understand what question she would like to ask. So when adopting AI systems, what is the constraint of budget or manpower or system? Is it right?
Yeah, like in implementing the AI, what is the most significant constraint? Is it about the budget? Is it about the manpower,
Okay,
or from your perspective?
I think all of it. So we need a lot of budget. billions of dollars to adopt new technology. AI. So also, we usually face a lack of manpower to handle the new technology and the system, and also the capability of the governance is one of the key factor in adopting new AI systems. So I believe that just not only the budget secure the budgets in adopting AI, but the more important is that sustainability. So once you build the AI system, so could sustain, update, and manage the control. So every time you will face the problem with the output or some proceeding data, and so also some of the actual results heavily have a negative impact on the higher level decision or other things. So how could deal with that? So usually it's very important to secure a lot of money and people, but the more important thing is would you handle unexpected issues after the building AI system? That's my key question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would you like to add on this, Pak Giri? What is, in your perspective, what is the most challenging part of implementing, like the leadership transformation, or even talking about the AI implementation? Is it about the budget? Is it about the manpower? Or is it about the government priorities? Which one do you find it very
thank you.
challenging?
I think the key is the manpower, right?
Okay.
The manpower includes the leaders, the top leaders, the institution head, So that's one of the and that's the key in our leadership training, actually, how to influence the stakeholders. In this case, the people who can access the changing of regulations, whenever they think that it should be changed, then they can do that, So that's one of the toughest stakeholders in my experience,
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Giri. I want to ask Miss Lee, because you already have a lot of questions before that. I'll let you take a rest for a minute. Let me just check on other questions coming from the audience. Okay, I see Pak Dandan raised his hands before. Is Pak Dandan still here? Okay, let me just check. Okay, I see Pak Dandan is raising his hand. Hi, Pak Dandan. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mbak Zahrina.
Yeah, you can ask your questions directly, Pak. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for Professor Woody Yun and Professor Jessica Lee for inspiring insight for us. My question is about maybe regarding the condition of our public sector, Indonesian public sector, and I would like to learn from best practice or lesson learned from Korea and also from Singapore regarding how to improve the public sector integrity, especially through leadership training. Because as far as I'm concerned, that Singapore and also Korea, the countries among the high integrity rank in the global rank, and Indonesia maybe still struggling how to improve the integrity of public sector, especially for the public leaders. Maybe through your approach, and maybe there are some best practices or lesson learned in which Indonesia can learn how to improve the integrity of public leaders through training, leadership training. I think that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Dadan.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That's a very that's a great question. Let's see. I mean, in terms of training public servant as AI adoption, I mean, even everyone is public servant, and we need to transform our training program. But I believe that we are trying to becoming the AI engineer as a learning new technology. But I believe that that's the inappropriate way. So I believe that it might need all officials need a common foundation knowledge of AI. So, but the more important is that the competencies in the public offices should be differentiated by role. So front officers need some case judgment and citizen communication. So manager need the risk and portfolio management, right? And special needs need a model data security evaluation capability. Also, senior leaders should know the strategic governance and institutional decision-making capability. And usually it's there's a lot of the barriers that if the government trying to begin adopting new AI. But the point is that not the technology. So it is the misalignment of technology, authority, skills, incentives, and institutional process. So ministry won't have advanced AI tools, but they do not have clear approval authority. So maybe officials may receive training, but they might have access to approved data or models. So and they are struggling with dealing with a lot of issues when using AI. So it's a ministerial level. We need how to deal with procurement and budget audit rules and performance system. So it has to be supported by the organizational level. So that's why I mentioned that agile AI government must be treated as an institutional transform. So technology and governance, HRD, organization, procurement, evaluation, leadership must be designed in a one connected operation system. That's my answer. I think this is helpful to you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yun, for answering the tough questions. Do we still have time for another question? All right. So thank you very much, Pak Dandan, for your questions. Let me just check on the audience who has raised his or her hand virtually. All right. If there are no questions coming from the audience, can we go back to the Slido, please? Yeah. Okay, to Prof. Yun. So Miss Yuli and Dr. Giri, you can press a bit. So can AI go beyond recommending learning programs to build and continuously update competency profiles at scale?
I think that yes.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I believe that yes. The point is that I think AI ethics is a more critical issue when you're using the AI. So just like know how to use AI, but the more important that can we genuinely explain the result of the AI from the system. So I think our learning program should be innovative because technology is rapidly changed. So we cannot fix this competency is the final. So that's our challenge every month. So I absolutely yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your explanation, Prof. Yun. All right, so let me just check on the audience. There any other questions? Okay, maybe we can also check on the Slido, please. Okay, to Pak Giri. All right, so how can quality public services be created when it's difficult to find qualified leaders due to breakdown in leadership succession? Talking about leadership, you are the one who can answer these questions, Pak Giri. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Sasa ya. This is a good questions ya. And this is a kind of like philosophical questions, I think, yeah. Maybe I can illustrate, yeah. Once there is a time when there is a what is it? Citizens ask his leader, yeah, or her leader. Yeah. Why in this, when you are a leader, why there are so many what is protests, so many demonstrations, the rules not good, yeah, and there are many chaos everywhere. Yeah? And the leader said, because but before you are a leader, sorry, why during your leadership there are many protests, yeah? Well, before you, yeah, there are, people are satisfied, yeah, and they can live quite in harmony, yeah. But when you are a leader, so there are many protests among the citizens. And the leader said, because before me, yeah, when I was a citizen like you, ordinary people like you, yeah, sorry, before my leadership, yeah, for example, the leadership, I was the citizen, yeah? And when I was the leader, you are the citizens. So that's the questions, yeah. So what I mean is, when there is a difficult finding qualified leaders, yeah, due to breakdown of leadership, how can a public policy service quality is improved, yeah? Leaders don't do or don't work themselves, yeah. Leaders have teams, yeah. When the leaders not good, yeah, not qualified, for example, yeah, don't let the team be unqualified either, yeah. I think that's the message, yeah. If the leader is not good, yeah, not let the team not good as well or either, yeah. So I mean, it's a balance, yeah. If there is a leader's, that person is not good enough in leading, yeah. Are we, we don't do anything, yeah. We have to give the service. I mean, there are rules, yeah. There are rules, yeah. And maybe the leaders doesn't follow rules quite well, yeah, or maybe the quality of leadership is not good, yeah. But the team can work following the rules, which hopefully, yeah, can give better qualified service, yeah? Because the key is the leaders don't do themselves, yeah. They have like team, yeah. I think that's my questions, yeah. Sorry, my answer.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
bye.
Pak Giri, for your explanations. Yeah. All right. Coming to our final questions, it will be directly asked from Pak Seno. I will check on him first. All right. So based on CSC's experience, finally, for you, Ms. Lee, what strategies would you recommend for developing Indonesian civil servants across diverse regions and cultures? Should be combined with Pak Giri, but it's okay. It's for you, Ms. Lee.
All right, thanks for the question. I guess maybe maybe my response will be linked to some of my earlier responses as well. I think, let's say, for example, if you have already decided, as a government, you have decided what are the key areas of priorities for training your civil servants. I think then the next best is really to find very able and very willing partners to work with you on. So I think one of the things that we found successful was really because we had agencies who were willing to come on board. In fact, they were the ones who were knocking our doors, who were asking, oh, no, can CSC support me in, all of these things, right? And I think once you have some of your, what we term as early adopters, right? So once you have them on board, they're willing to journey with you. Very often, I think then these agencies or these organizations will also become your greatest advocates as well. And then they will also be in turn. So you can imagine it kind of like what do you call it? A waterfall effect, right? Because, once you start, and then it will just continue to cascade to, I think, other areas as well. Of course, it sounds like it's very hopeful because the first few projects are never easy to find. They are never easy to scope. But I think which is why they are also the most worthwhile to spend your effort in. Because once you can find partners who are willing to journey with you, actually once the success stories are up there, it's very often easier to come up with some of the templates, some of the processes, some of the policies in order for the change to take place at a larger scale as well. So I will always say, because I'm trained in service design, right? So we always say think big, start small. So while these are all the key chunky key priorities that we are looking at, but then actually what are the small things I think that we can start piloting on first, that we can do very quickly first, that once successful, then we can scale a much greater audience. So I would say that that's probably one of the strategy I would maybe encourage you guys to consider as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So think big, but start small.
Yes.
Yeah. Find the right partners to make them buy into your project, and then we can work together. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. I think we actually come to the final closing or the closing of the Q&A sessions. Once again, thank you to all the participants for your thoughtful questions, and to our distinguished speaker for sharing your valuable insights. Although time does not permit us to address every questions, we truly appreciate the active engagement demonstrated throughout today's discussions. As we conclude this webinar in celebration of NIPA 69th anniversary, one message stands out. The greatest investment in public service is not the knowledge itself, but the people who lead, learn, and use it responsibly. Today, we heard from 4 complementary perspectives. Mr. Kaken Vanasiri from OCSC Thailand highlighted a practical competency framework that links competencies with assessment, development, and performance. Ms. Jessica Lee from CSC Singapore demonstrated how Learn ecosystem enables continuous AI-supported learning across government. Mr. Giri Sabtoaji from NIPA Indonesia reminded us that transformations depends on leaders who inspire innovations while remaining inclusive and people-centered. And finally, Professor Uji Yoon from NHI Korea emphasized that true AI transformations requires continuous learning combined with strong accountability. Together, these presentations reinforce a shared vision. A capable public service is learning public service, one built on clear competencies, continuous learning, transformative leadership, and responsible governance. On behalf of the organizing committee, I sincerely thank our distinguished speakers and all participants for your valuable contribution. We hope today's discussions inspire stronger collaborations in building more adaptive, trusted, and future-ready public institutions. Thank you once again. Happy 69th anniversary to NIPA. Have a wonderful day. And I now have a pleasure to handing the program back to our Master of Ceremony, Ms. Reni Kusumawati Saputri, to lead us through the closing of today's webinar. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Zahrina Zultamimi, for moderating today's discussions. And also our sincere appreciations also goes to all distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights and also experiences, as well as to all participants for your active engagement throughout the webinar. And before we conclude, allow me to remind all participants to fill out the attendance and also evaluation form shared by our team in the chat box in order to claim your e-certificate. And for the latest updates on upcoming learning programs, we also invite you to follow our Instagram official account at humas_land. All right, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of today's webinar. On behalf of the National Institute of Public Administration, Republic of Indonesia, we extend our sincere appreciations to all speakers, participants, and everyone who has contributed to the success of today's webinar. We hope today's discussions have provided valuable knowledge, inspired new perspectives, and strengthened our collective commitment to advancing adaptive competency development in the public sector. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we look forward to welcoming you again at our future program. Goodbye and see you again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
you.